Welcome to the Struggle Bus Family Podcast, where we share real stories from the messy, beautiful, exhausting, and joyful world of caregiving. We're here to build a community that supports, educates, and uplifts caregivers and families of individuals with disabilities and complex needs. Whether you're a parent, sibling, educator, or just someone who loves a caregiver, there's a seat for you on this bus.
Welcome to the Struggle Bus family. We created this podcast because caregiving can be isolating, but it doesn't have to be. We believe that by sharing our stories, we create space for connection, healing, laughter, and maybe even a little hope. Hi, Johnny.
Hey, Jess, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
What do we have cooking?
Well, I think today we're going to talk about a recent trip you guys took. Avery eloping during that trip and all the fun and excitement that you probably don't care to relive and what you learned from that experience. So should we start with a little bit of a struggle, strive, thrive perhaps though?
Yeah, and I think we should put you on the spot today.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to focus on the positive aspects of it.
Ooh, okay.
So by the time this comes out on the Struggle Bus Family Facebook page, our first in-person family meetup.
Yes, we're super, super excited to welcome local families to join us.
Sure. Or other families that want to fly in from, other states or other countries. You're more than welcome to join us too. So it's July 19th. And as I said, the details are on our Facebook page if you want to check that out. How about you? Any struggle, strive, thrive aside? Well, I think this episode's about a struggle, but how about a strive or thrive if you want to keep it on the glass half full side today?
Lately, Avery's communication has really thrived. I think he hasn't been using his AAC device at home as much, but I'm working on updating that for him. But he's been extremely vocal, which can be frustrating, but it's mostly exciting because he is learning how to get responses when he needs or wants something. So, I try not to get too frustrated with it, but I am really excited to see how much he's grown in communication.
I don't know if it's new to you, but there's an M word I've heard a few times now. Is that a new word?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a new word. Good call
Let's
out.
hear about that because that's certainly a thrive, I think.
Yes. So in the past, Avery has not made any letter sounds, vowels, or consonants. And lately, he has been saying, and it's getting pretty close to sounding like mom.
So I think I've even heard it.
I've heard it. I know I've heard it. I just not consistently, which is, as many of you know, and for those that don't know, that's a characteristic of his condition is he may say something one time and never say it again, but he's been consistently, especially at night, he's been consistently making that sound. So it's pretty exciting to hear. I'm surprised I haven't teared up yet over it.
You haven't? Wow.
No, I know.
Guy made of iron. So how about a little preview before we get into the details of what we're talking about here, or set the stage.
Set the stage. Okay. So we've talked about this a little bit, and I did give a little teaser in our last episode, but we took a trip to Tennessee recently, last month, and we split our time between Nashville and my hometown. And when we stay in Nashville, we stay in an apartment. Which, as you know, anytime you stay somewhere that's unfamiliar or not home, it can be challenging to say the least. And we talked about some travel tips and tricks in our last episode, which I did employ, but now my bag is a little bit fuller of tips and tricks for the next time we travel. But one morning I had a startling wake up. And how do you want me to set the stage? I'm totally lost.
Well, I mean, I think, you So I guess I'll start with, I mean, having kids like ours, sleep can be a premium, or is
Mhm.
often a premium, I'll say. Um, and I think, I mean, I wasn't there, but I think it started with, okay, the house is waking. Well, some folks had gone to run errands or started work. I don't remember which it was, but the house was waking up, right? And
Gosh, yes.
and
Yeah,
then what happened?
so we had kind of planned this the night before, but there was a slight miscommunication either the night before or the morning of. I really haven't done a root cause analysis to figure it out. However, the goal was for me to get to sleep in that morning a little bit, which is a luxury. Avery's an early riser, and once his feet hit the floor, the entire house, and in this case, probably the entire apartment complex, was awake. So that morning, I was anticipating a coffee delivery from Starbucks. And the night before, we had planned for me to sleep in, as I said. I thought Avery left with a friend to go get coffee from Starbucks, but his older brother had already been awake.
So you woke up and Avery wasn't there,
So
but neither.
no, I was sleeping. I had no idea Avery wasn't there. My friend came in with Starbucks and woke me up and said that Avery is missing. And the dog was missing with him. And in my, like when you're dead asleep and
Uh
you're having like just some good late morning sleep and someone wakes you up, like I was pretty disoriented, and then I jumped to my feet in my pajamas, like no bra, no shoes on, and she's like, "Oh, and by the way, the police are downstairs. There's an ambulance.
wow.
Avery's fine." I'm like, "Okay." And she tells me that they're like, it's Avery that's downstairs, and one of the police officers gave her his name.
Found out he was downstairs with the police and such. There was a period of time of like, I think or assume there was a period of time of like, well, where is he?
Yes, yeah, because she didn't lead with like, "Oh, the police have him. He's safe downstairs." It was like, "No, Avery's
Not here.
gone from the apartment and he's down on the first floor, and she happens to live on the eighth floor," which is concerning in and of itself because he can't reach the elevator buttons to get himself down. So, just to recap, I'm dead asleep, startling wake up. Avery's missing. Our dog Keely is missing with him, which Keely is his future service dog. We haven't talked about that yet, but we will. We're on a journey to training her for that. And yeah, I totally forgot where I was. I'm bombing it today. We're gonna have to start over.
Okay. Well, I mean, you could use that as a. You want to start from the
Forgot we
very beginning?
forgot we.
Okay. Where
Okay,
do you want to stay there? Go down? Well, here's up.
maybe go.
There's struggle, strive, thrive.
You can go back down.
Or maybe we just go into the incident segment 2.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna go page down.
Let me just recap real quick. So the plan was I was going to sleep in. My oldest son was there, but he really didn't have any part of this plan at the time. However, he'd woken up earlier than me and apparently was committed to watching Avery. But as you know, Avery can be very quiet and ninja swift when he's moving around or doing things he's not supposed to be doing. So it's very possible that he opened the door, let the dog out, let himself out, and no one heard it. I didn't hear it. So anyway, on with the recap. Me in my pajamas, no bra, no shoes, half asleep, hair's a mess, yesterday's makeup still on. I take a sip of my Starbucks, and my dear friend got me a plain latte, so the coffee startled me even more. And there are police and ambulance and the mental health cooperative downstairs. And mind you, it's not one police car, it's 3. two sets of neighbors in the lobby, and well, I've already told you how I look. So we get downstairs. Avery is in a very full diaper and a shirt, and his most recent thing has been chewing on his shirt, or drooling on his shirt, chewing on it, so he keeps it in his mouth. Well, he had brand new pajamas on. Not that you would know that, because he had completely chewed the hem off the collar of his shirt. So there was a gaping hole in his shirt, torn. He has no pants on, a full diaper.
So we're like full on ragamuffin mode.
Yes, full ragamuffin mode. I'm standing there looking like I just rolled out of bed, which I did. And there's a set of neighbors who found him and called the police. And then there's another neighbor from the first, second floor who actually knew Avery. So when my friend Channing had come to me, she said the police said his name is Avery. And I said, well, how do they know his name is Avery? He doesn't
Right.
talk. And she's like, oh, that's a good point. Like, and I was like, yeah. She said, well, they just told me. So I did find out that one of the neighbors was a friend that we had met while we were in town. And so he relayed that was his name. But that was like the first, not the first, probably the second or third alarming thing for me. The first alarming thing for me was that he was on the first floor and we were staying on the eighth floor. And the third alarming thing is that he'd been roaming for probably 30, 35 minutes with Keely. I don't know what floor. I don't know what he was doing, but when I saw him, his brother had come downstairs with me. Channing came downstairs. And when he sees me, he's laughing and smiling like he's had the time of his life, but he runs right past me to his brother, of all people.
Well, I mean, out of all, I mean, he loves his brother and vice versa, right?
Yeah, I don't mean it like he doesn't love his brother. I just mean like, come on, I'm mom, like I'm terrified, like
Yep.
ease my concern here. No, he just blows right past me like, hey bro, check out what I did.
That's right. I'm an independent man of my own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guy. So how? I mean, I think when you said Chang said, oh, they said his name is Avery. At that point, all you guys knew is everyone was there looking because there was someone had found a child, right? They didn't know where he belonged, who he belonged to, and I think Channing had asked police or someone a question, and that they just told her like, oh, his name is Avery. And then at that point, she was upstairs giving you coffee and relaying the story before you guys went downstairs, right?
Yeah, so I think because the people who found him had taken him, I think they took him downstairs. So there's a couple pieces of the puzzle I'm not quite sure of, and I didn't even think to ask questions. I was
Well,
just
yeah,
glad
you're
he was
in that you're
okay.
in that mode. You're like, holy shit, where's my kid, right?
So he was on the first floor. He was safe. He did look not very well taken care of.
like he had just gotten out of bed too.
Yes, or in a fight with a cat with very sharp claws in the condition of his shirt. But it's my understanding that the police were going door to door on the floor they found him, knocking on the door looking for his parents. Now, when Channing came in, she obviously said, I know where she is. This is his mom. And I mean, my immediate thought is he okay? What
Sure.
happened? How did this happen? My second thought is, am I going to jail? Like, uh, and everyone was very supportive. I think so. This is not the first time Avery has eloped. He's never done it in a building, or should I say he's not had the opportunity. Like this definitely was a miscommunication, and it could have turned out very different than it did. But he has, in an instance where I'd taken my eyes off of him for just a couple minutes, he's run down the
Oh
road,
yeah.
middle of the road. He has no concern for fear, safety, people around him. He's non-speaking, so people talk to him and he walks the other way,
Yep.
doesn't pay
Yep.
attention, or, he may look at them, but he obviously doesn't respond.
Yeah.
It's a very scary situation
Mhm.
as a parent, and I didn't know this at the time, but there had recently been another autistic child or teenager in Nashville who was missing, and they still hadn't found him. So, there's a lot of things that could creep into our heads when these situations happen. And thankfully, they'd found him. He was fine. The paramedics had checked him out to make sure that there, was nothing going on with him, which is protocol. But it was a very scary situation that could have been far worse.
Yeah, totally. I guess, I think we talked about the initial reaction to panic, right? So then, um, and then the adrenaline that comes along with that and drives all the things. What about, I don't know if it was like, as, the same, in the same short time period, or maybe it was after the fact, but I'm going to guess, because having gone through several similar experiences,
Mhm.
with Eugene, who was, I don't know how long he walked. We were at the silos in Waco, and he walked away, and I don't know how long he was gone before we realized he had walked away. So we're like, and we have 5 kids, so it's like, okay, you stay with the other 4. So we're now looking for 5 kids, I'll start going around trying to find him. And I turned the corner, and luckily there was a policewoman who was holding him, which was a relief. But then I had the immediate thought of like, oh shit, am I going to jail now? Right. And then Eli another time had left the apartment, and I didn't know. I was working at the house by myself with just him and the other kid. I think he was homesick from school or something. But anyways, he had gotten out and gotten into wet cement that they were laying a sidewalk for, right? And then the last one I can remember that I'm willing to admit to was, I think it was Eric and Eugene somehow got out of the house, and just by dumb luck, someone at the end of our cul-de-sac works from home, and she saw them. She was in her home office working, and she saw them walking by.
Yes.
So her and her husband brought them back. So, but I guess my question is, after the panic and the adrenaline, was there guilt, or what comes next after things kind of settle?
Well, I think there was a tremendous sense of relief and maybe slight embarrassment, which I think is kind of natural to feel like,
Sure.
not over what I was wearing or him, but embarrassment that it
Happened.
happened. And, I'm explaining to the police officer the situation, and they obviously picked up on it. Like, they talked to him and he didn't respond to
Right.
them. He was in good health. So I mean, like, there, it checked the boxes. As there wasn't any concern for me that my story wouldn't align
Right.
with what happened, right?
Right.
But as a parent who is always on high alert, there is some guilt that comes with when those situations happen. I think ultimately we just have to be grateful that when our kids don't get hurt or bad things don't happen. And,
Right.
I can't necessarily say that I'm in a position to laugh about it because it's very scary. And Avery's very small. So he's 4 years old, but he's, still probably the size of a 2 year old. So it's hard to understand that he can be so quick to disappear, but he can be just as noisy as he is quiet, or
Right.
just as quiet as he is
Right.
noisy. He moves around and does things. He's curious, he's mischievous, and there is no time to let your guard down.
Right.
There isn't an opportunity for me to let my guard down. And I think it served as a reminder,
Mhm.
to not relax into thinking that he won't try things.
Right.
It's not even, he doesn't do things to get in trouble. He just doesn't have that compass
Yeah.
to
There's
tell.
there's impulsivity, right?
There's a lot of impulsivity with our kids, and it's the guilt comes in with just like being a parent who's on high alert and feeling like, oh my gosh, I wasn't paying attention and things could have been really bad. There's a million things that could have happened in an
Right.
apartment building.
But I think part of this is, us as parents or caregivers are our own toughest critics typically, right? But this
Yeah.
is, And yes, we're always on high alert, but at the same time, I guess maybe this is getting into the next piece of this, is there's certain tactics, right? Both at home and when we travel. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know in Avery's case, you have a safety bed at home. So
Yeah.
he sleeps in there, he naps in there, or sleeps in there at night, and he can't get out.
Right.
For my boys, they all have their own rooms, otherwise they fight. But at night, they cannot get out of their room. Probably something to talk about later is Eli learned how to open the windows for his room, and would, for like 2 weeks before I could figure out how to keep him from opening windows, because I tried everything and he still figured it out. He'd be wandering around in the backyard, and there's a pool back there, which is an extra layer of scariness. But in general, they can't get out at night. And then when we travel, like the previous episode, travel tips and such, we talked about, there's the tactic that we'll use when traveling that you tried with Avery on this trip too, of they sleep in a tent, and you should definitely go back and watch that, because that's still by far my number one tip for having the ability to try and sleep or rest when you're traveling, especially. We're human, right? I mean, and we do the best we can, and you employ all these tactics and strategies so that you can try and, in this case, try and get some rest. Because at the end of the day, if we as parents or caregivers can't sleep, we can't be a parent and we can't be a caregiver.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think it's important also to say that we can't make things foolproof all the time. Now, in my situation, the door was unlocked and it was like, okay, we have to make sure the door is locked every time. And that's something that you and your family are really good at doing. But even in your home where you have taken extensive measures to keep the kids safe and in the house, or to be notified when someone leaves the house, like you've done a lot of those safety measures. Eli escaping from his bedroom is something new. So they always find a way. And it's not that they're seeking that, it's just that it goes back to the impulsivity thing. So they're just impulsive. So if it pops in their head that, hey, they can do this, they're just going to do it. And then once it's there, they're very committed and very persistent about getting what they want. So, like I said, in my situation, it could have been prevented, which is where, some of that embarrassment and guilt comes in. But it's also, a reminder, like when you stay other places or you travel or you're talking to other people about your children, stress the importance of the safety things. Like sometimes it can seem like overkill, but there's a reason that we do the things we do. It's like there's the one-off chance. Like most of the time, the kids understand the rules. They understand how to, to function within, and they don't necessarily do things. I might retract that statement later.
I was gonna say my favorite phrase: attention-seeking behavior, right?
Attention-seeking behavior. But, I think it's one of those things that people get it once they see it, but you really want people to get it before it happens. And, I remember after we'd gotten back to the apartment and everything was fine, we had to do a police report, but there wasn't anything that came of it. Like it was just an accident. And I called my mom, and my mom is like, oh my God, I'm going to buy a tent tonight. We'll make sure that the doors are locked, because my family lives in the South where sometimes the doors are just unlocked. Like people come and go, and that's not a safe environment for him.
Right.
So, it's that realization when something like that happens. And I think through sharing these stories, like we help educate people. No, we're not just anal parents trying to do things to, like trap our kids. We're legitimately trying to keep them safe, and we're trying to make things easier for ourselves because we live in a state of chronic exhaustion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, easier for ourselves, yes, but first and foremost, safe for them, right? I mean, if I told someone that didn't know our situation that, yeah, I lock the boys in the bedroom at night, they'd be like, you what?
Yeah.
But it's like, if I don't do that, they're going to be in the kitchen playing with knives, or, eating Tide Pods from the washing machine. Who knows? For all the things you could think of that they would do, The problem is the things you can't think of. So, I mean, you do what you have to do to keep them safe. If it helps you be able to sleep and take a break as well, great.
Yeah, exactly. And I know in our last episode, we started talking about some of the gear and safety things that we use. I will say that since this incident occurred, you guys have a lock that you have reversed that goes out to the pool. And I've since decided to replace the external lock at my place with one of those so that in the event the deadbolt is left unlocked, he still cannot
Right.
leave because there's actually 3 locks on the door, and he can only grab the handle to open the door. So in the event that those 2 locks are not closed, he still can't get out
Yep.
because there's a biometric handle at the bottom.
Yep.
So, yeah, is it a pain in the ass if I want to go outside quickly? Yeah, it is, but it's one of the concessions that we make. And I'll say one of the things, like we stayed with you in February for a week, and then I've been, of course, over to the house. And one of the things that I get frustrated about, I'm like, where are the freaking keys? Can I just get the key to go to the bathroom? And it's like, or I can't get the door
Right.
unlocked. But it's, at the end of the day, my frustration is nothing compared to keeping the kids safe. It's nothing
Yep.
compared to keeping them from flooding the bathroom or flooding the kitchen or creating, I can't tell you how many like enormous messes or times that if the garage door at your house is open and we don't have the extra locks, like it's just there's so much that goes into it. And when you're doing things around the house or cooking or your attention's on another kid and you've got like a child that's trying to escape, I mean, they'll be at the road before you even realize they're outside.
Yes. And maybe you've kind of outed some of the stuff that's done at the house, right? So I mean, I mean, I'm sure if everyone knew all the things that are done at the house, they'd probably be like, God, you're insane. But if you guys are interested in knowing all the safeguards and stuff that are at the house, drop a comment and maybe we can detail that in episode 2, similar to the travel episode, but this would be home. How do you make your home a home and not a source of stress, I guess? I mean, it's still a source of stress, but so maybe we talk about that sometime too. But so maybe let's get into some of the things that have happened since. I mean, you already talked about the biometric or the code doorknob to get out of your house, and that's coming from that's on route. I think it's being delivered today or something. You said earlier, right? So that's great. One of the things I implemented for all 3 boys after, I think it was after the second time after one of them escaped, is the bracelets, which we'll put a link in the description since we now have Amazon affiliate links for a lot of the products that we use to keep the kids safe or make our lives a little easier. But you've decided to go that route for Avery too.
Yes, and I did make the mistake of ordering a bracelet that's engraved. It has 4 phone numbers on it. It says that he cannot talk and that he has autism and epilepsy, and it's just got the basic information, but the idea is for him to wear it all the time. Well, the one that I got is like a typical watch clasp, and he's already figured out how to take it off. So I know the difference in that and the ones that your boys have is it's a metal clasp.
Metal and the clasp, like hooks into itself. So I mean, me as an adult, I have trouble undoing it, but the whole thing is metal. I want to say stainless steel, and it never comes off. School, home, bed, bath, pool. I mean, it never comes off. And yours had the ability to put more text on it. The ones that I got for the boys only have like I think 4 or 5 lines of text on the backside of it. But I mean, that's all you need. I mean, in the case of the boys, it says like my name is Eric Chu. I live in, and it has our zip code. You know, we don't need the address, just the zip code. So like if we're traveling, they know we're not from Florida or wherever, right? It says, I can't remember the exact verbiage I have on there, but something like, I can't talk, but I know ASL and use PECs to communicate. And then it says, mom is, and then her name, and has her phone number. Dad is, has my name, has my phone number. And that's it.
Yes.
Because that's enough, right?
Yeah, I do think so. That would have been hugely beneficial had Avery already had his at the time, because then we probably could have avoided calling the police and the neighbors could have looked at his bracelet. However, I skipped over this a little bit. I said that he let the dog out with him, and it's his
Service dog,
future service dog. She was probably our saving grace because she did not leave his side. And mind you, she's a puppy, so she's 5 months old, but they are very attached to each other. And she did not leave his side. So she also had her vest on that said service dog in training, and had phone numbers and a name and information. So while he didn't have a bracelet on, she did. So when I talked to the police, they said, is this his service dog? I said, yes. And they said, well, she's been right there with him the whole time. She's still here. And that, I'm not using that as a case to have a service dog, but I do think that his relationship with her and her willingness to learn and be bonded with him really helped in this situation, because it could have looked a lot different had he not had her with him.
Yeah.
I think there would have been more questions from the police, more questions from paramedics and such. But the fact that there were just a lot of things that lined up that said this is the situation, that made it make sense and did not turn it into, I mean, my God, I thought we were going to be on the news that evening, which to my knowledge we weren't. So, but I do think, I know we want to talk about the service dog component and what that all entails, and I'll bring you along on our journey. But I thought that was interesting. If Keely does have a tag on her, she does wear her vest most of the time, even though she's not graduated from training. I keep it on her. And I think, like, for us, that just makes sense because it does help, in whatever situation. And he's obviously very comfortable with her around. So she's kind of the first thing in the morning when he gets up, he runs to her kennel to let her out if she's in the kennel. She puts him to bed at night. Like, it's been a very interesting process, but I think in this situation it was a lot safer.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh, I think let's move on to the best time to prepare is now.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, my number one tip, I think, is the bracelets, especially if your child can't talk.
Yes.
Right. I mean, the boys, I will say, if the boys have their AAC iPads, they're very good about telling everyone around them what our address is, what my phone number is, what my name is, my name, rank, serial number, social security number or whatever. They're very good at finding those buttons and just blaring it out to the world. But if they don't have those, they can't communicate. And that's why they have the bracelets, and the bracelets are such that they cannot be removed easily.
Yes.
So I think that's, for me, that's the number one. Prepare now. Order that puppy right now and get that on your kid's wrist or ankle or wherever and they're, it's going to take time for them to get used to it, right? The boys kept tugging at it, and then after a few days or whatever, it's just second nature to them.
We'll have the link listed in the description for this episode.
Yeah. But what other prepare now lessons would you share from this experience, share with everyone?
So I think from, as in the times that I visited your house and we've talked through stories like when this has happened, I sometimes think, well, you have 5 kids, 3 that you have to do more precautionary things for. But it's not necessarily true. You can have one child that needs just as much safety things in place. Like, yeah, I'm able to give him more attention, but I still can't keep him safe all the time. Like I have to run a household, I have to work, I have,
Go to the
so
bathroom, take a shower, go to
yes,
the
yes,
supermarket.
all the things. And I think it is starting to prepare, but if you start to see things that your child or whomever you're taking care of is doing and it causes concern or stress for you, or even if it doesn't, go ahead and figure out what you can do to be proactive to
Right.
prevent situations. Like, seriously, just save yourself the stress and anxiety of losing your child, of, you know, concerning yourself with if they'll escape at night. Yeah, people will think it's kind of weird. I'm sure there's some Kens and Karens out there that think the tent idea is terrible. That's fine. You're not walking in my shoes and you don't know what it's
Exactly.
like to have my
Feel free to
child.
come watch
So,
Three Boys at night so I can sleep. And then, yeah,
yes, by all
then you can
means,
judge
but
my.
be proactive and trust your instincts, right? So if you're talking to people and they think that you're overreacting, like, sometimes you might be, and you can, take that into consideration, but your child best. We say this often. Your child best. Those that you're
Yep.
caregiving for best, and if it puts them in a position to be safer and it puts your mind at ease, go for it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
the other thing that I'll say that I find kind of funny is we share a lot of stuff. We're open books on this podcast, and we share a lot of things. But
Yep.
I'll tell you that based on what you've heard, you probably can't get in our houses. We do everything we can to keep our kids from getting out, but it is also ridiculously challenging to get in.
Yes.
So on those occasions when we
Yep.
leave our keys or we leave something
Yep.
inside, it's a chore, but it's worth it.
Yes. I mean, to the extent that I'll say the way Eli learned how to open the window was a babysitter was accidentally locked in Eli's bedroom while watching the Three Boys. And I mean, there's no one there to unlock the door to let him out. So his only recourse, and he had all three boys in there with him. Like, I think Eric might have like pulled it, like gone in there and unlocked it and pulled the door closed behind him. So he was stuck there, and he all he could do is think of like, okay, if I open the window and punch out the screen, then I can at least get out of the room to try and go around. But I'm thinking, I mean, he wouldn't know this, but I'm thinking, when after the fact when I heard all this happen, I'm like, even if he got out of Eli's room, there's no way he'd be able to get back in the house from another door or window. It's not happening.
Right.
And I'll add, for all the things that we've talked about here and that we'll talk about in a subsequent episode, and all the things that you guys have done and will do to prepare, it's going to be an evolution, right? I mean, even like electrical out covers, I've had to go through two, if not three, iterations of those because inevitably the boys learn how to pry them out of the outlet. And I would have never in a million years would have guessed that Eli would be able to open his windows because, one, he has muscle tone issues, and two, we never open the windows, so they're like frozen. I mean, it takes a lot of force to get those damn things open. And I mean, he was opening two or three of them. I don't know if it was at night or early in the morning before we got all the boys out to get ready for the day or what, but it was like a good week or two when I'm like trying latches or bars or wooden sticks or whatever to try and keep him from opening the damn window. That I'd come out in the morning and he's wandering in the backyard, and I go in his room and like it's like somehow the latch is off the windowsill or the wooden dowel that I tried to wedge in there is like two of them are missing. It's like, what the fuck, man? Like, so. I mean, ultimately, I was out of options. I tried everything that Home Depot or Lowe's or Amazon had. I ended up putting 3-inch screws through the window jambs to keep so no one can open the window, even if you wanted to at this point, right? So, you just prepare now. Try if you haven't had this experience, you're fortunate.
And do a little bit at a time. If it's a financial issue, or if it's not a financial issue and it's a time issue for setting all these things up, just do it in bite size. Just take on bite sized things at a time until you get there. Because if you implement all of these things at one time, you're probably just going to end up frustrated too, because you're not going to remember the things that you put on doors, the things you put on windows,
Right.
the way it can be overwhelming. But if you take it in bite-sized pieces, do little things, start with the most concerning. It can get expensive to do some of the safety measures, especially when you get into cameras and more sophisticated locks and things. But it's less expensive than an ER bill, and it's less emotionally expensive than losing your child and your child not being found.
And it's less expensive than having to get bailed out of jail too.
Yeah. I'm sure. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure.
I don't have a personal experience either, but I'll say that the metal engraved bracelet that the boys have, and I think Avery is going to get soon too. Like I said,
$30.
yeah, I was going to say the link. We'll have the link here for the Amazon affiliate to get one of your own for your kids. But yeah, they're like $20 or $30.
Yeah, and
cheap insurance.
The door handle that I'm referring to, that's a biometric and has a key code, it's $40. So, and I would even say don't go out and spend a fortune on some of these nifty devices, because if your kids are like ours, they're going to destroy them. They're going to break them. They're going to bypass them. Like inevitably something is going to happen. So, do your research. We've vetted some products. What we've talked about today, we'll have listed in the description, but
Yep.
don't feel like you have to go buy the top of the line thing. It's probably going to take some trial and error to figure out what works
Like
for
Eli's
you and your
window
family.
example, right? I don't even know how many different things I tried before I ended up on like the simplest, stupidest, cheapest thing, which is just screw a screw into the windowsill, right? I mean, yeah. So,
well, and if you have ideas for us, if you have things that you've tried, or funny stories or sad stories or whatever, you found something interesting in this episode, we'd love to hear that. And we'd love for you to reach out to us.
for sure. So with that, thank you all for riding the bus with us. This road certainly has its sharp turns and bumps, but, hope you guys know that none of us are driving alone. So with that,
all right. We'll see you next time.